So, welcome, Rachel. I am so excited to have you on this week's episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, for the listeners that don't yet know you, don't yet know who you are, what you do, and everything that you're involved in, could you just introduce yourself and give us a little backstory of like how you got started and all of the things that you do? Because literally the list is so long, and it's so incredible.
Thank you. So I am a transpersonal psychotherapist and a transformational life coach. I'm also a writer and a professor, and I do voiceovers. I've had a long background in the arts, which is how I originally got started. I actually got started in comedy as a sketch comedy writer and performer. And I was, doing acting in the city, in New York City. So I have a big arts background. I used to write poetry and all that kind of thing. So the arts is really what got me into connecting with other people, which was and is my main purpose, I think, in life is to connect. And but around, I would guess it was about 2012, I launched my life coaching business. And that was wonderful. I really loved doing it. And I really loved helping people. But I found that I wasn't helping people as deeply as I wanted to. So then I went back to school and got my master's in marriage and family therapy, and eventually became a licensed psychotherapist in New York State. So I offer a more, I would say, more well-rounded hence transpersonal therapy for people. And so what is transpersonal therapy might be the question, So really, transpersonal therapy is about a holistic approach to mental health. It really incorporates mind, body, and spirit. So human beings are not just their minds, so when we look at therapy, people often think of, well, there's something wrong with me and I got to get it fixed, then I got to go see a therapist. But it's much more than your mind. We're such beautiful, complex beings that there's so much more that we're made of. And so transpersonal psychotherapy really deals with working with the mind, working with your body, doing somatic work, as well as your spirit, and how all three of them have to work in conjunction for you to feel fully whole. Transpersonal psychotherapy has been around since the 1960s. Abraham Maslow, Viktor Frankl, Carl Jung actually started the interest in the self, in individuating, which is to combine your conscious and your unconscious and synthesize them into an actual being. And of course, that incorporates a lot of your spirit as well. So, and he's established his work in the early 20th century. So it's been around for a while. But yeah, so my approach is very much integrating mind, body, and spirit with my patients and helping them to develop what I call the foundation of self, which is really necessary to negotiate any conflicts that might arise in our life.
So that was going to be my next question was, what is the foundation of self? What does that mean? What does that relate to? I know you speak about it a lot. Mm-hmm. For someone who's like, I've never heard that term before, I have no idea what that means. Just a little info more on that foundation of self.
Yeah. So the foundation of self is basically, well, who am I? What am I doing here? Why is it so difficult to just be who I am or find out who I am? So the foundation of self is really, how are you showing up in the world? What does it mean to be you? One of the beautiful things about being human is that there are so many different types of people, and each one of us is beautifully unique. So yes, of course, I talk a lot with patients about the interconnectedness of everything. So, that's a paradox. Well, if we're all interconnected, why am I so special and different? Because you have to be. You are. Of course you are. There's no Gabriella except Gabriella. You can't be anyone other than who you are. There's no Rachel but Rachel. So when we look at the foundation of self, what we're trying to do is find out, what is your spark? What is your vital essence? Where is the strength in that? Because we all have it. We all come from, okay, we'll do a little physics now. We all come from the same place. If you think about how life came into being in our cosmos, the Big Bang, right? Started everything. We're all connected in that way. And if we want to take the spiritual side of it, well, what caused the Big Bang? Well, we don't know, but we know it was something pretty incredible and something mysterious and wonderful and full of love and creation. And we're connected to that because we are the children of that. So when we take that as the first step toward creating a foundation of self, when you realize, oh my goodness, I came from this great mystery. I hold that spark of great mystery within me. That's a beautiful place to start. So the foundation of self is, first of all, to remember where you came from, remember where your home is, and how we all came from that place. And so each of us has that potential to tap into that spark of mystery and carry it within us.
I love that. So I know that you are also a student of shamanic study. And so do you help clients access that through shamanic journeying, through the shamanic drumming that you do? Want to talk a little bit about like shamanism and how that kind of plays into all of the things that you do and how you tie that into the spirit aspect of your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. My work with shamanism is something that it's my spiritual path. So when I work with patients, what I say is, this is what I do. Whatever your spirituality is, that's what we'll focus on. I certainly have patients who are interested in shamanic work. And then, yes, I will, if they are not familiar with it already, I'll teach them how to journey. I will do some shamanic healing through drumming, which is my modality. Of course, not anymore because we're not able to really be in person together. But once this all passes, I intend to work with people one-on-one again in my studio. But I can certainly teach shamanic journeying. And what is shamanism? So that's a spiritual practice. It's not a religion. It's a spiritual practice that's dated back 40,000 years. In fact, many of the religious practices today are based in shamanic practices. If we think about, for example, the 4 stations of the cross in Christianity, that's very similar to the 4 directions in shamanism. So when we call in the 4 directions, so there's a lot of carryover and bleeding into other practices, which is what's beautiful about shamanism, because shamanism is really here for healing only. We heal ourselves, our loved ones, animals, the planet. We work with weather, but we work with the energy, or you may say the spirit of everything, whether it's sentient or non-sentient. Everything has energy. And I'm a bit of a scientist too. So I like to everything.
I love that.
Yeah. So it keeps me from getting too woo-woo, you know what I mean?
I mean, we're all about the woo on this podcast. So, I mean, I love having a different approach with this is it, but this is also the scientific that backs it. Because I feel like just having the facts, it makes that magic more magical, if that even makes sense.
Well, absolutely. Because, when I say, I was talking with my 10-year-old son about God and religion, and he said, well, science is my religion. And I said, that's beautiful. That's perfect. You know what I mean? So that there is a great mystery in science too. Scientists don't know everything. And there is this beautiful unknown that I think speaks a lot to spirituality. But so in shamanic practice, we're really connecting with energy, spirit of whatever it is we need to communicate with. And you can do that with anything. I'm looking out my window at this beautiful tree, and I can speak with it. I can feel its energy, and it can feel mine. And that's just energetic exchange, which of course is also science. Mm-hmm. But I will work with patients shamanically if they request that.
Okay.
Otherwise, I will, and in fact, it's one of the first questions I ask when I do an intake is, what's your spirituality? How do you align? And interestingly, a lot of people say, I don't know. I know there's something, but that's why I'm coming to you, is I want to work on that. That is something I do with patients as well. Some people practice a specific religion, and then we'll work with the spirituality in that. So it depends.
I love that. I love that it's just so open, and you're like literally just targeting the person's specific like soul and preferences and like what they relate to. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. It's the same message, different language.
I love that. Oh, what got you started on your shamanic journey? Like, how did you go from like being in school and getting those degrees to being like, this is also my path, and then going down the road of becoming a shaman and integrating that into your own life? How did you get the call? When did you get the call? Or just sort of what was going on before you just took that in as a part of your life?
I love that question, because as I'm thinking of myself, I'm thinking of so many other people and their journeys too. I will specify, this is just something for me personally. A shamanic practitioner will never call themselves a shaman.
Okay.
That's for the community to decide.
Got it.
There's a joke that in my training, like if someone calls themselves a shaman and they haven't been recognized by their community as a shaman, run from that person,
Right. So, but I feel like that's why at the beginning I was like, you're a student of shamanic studies, because
perfect.
I'm like, I don't know the lingo.
Of course. But so it's really important. And it's also, I don't want your listeners to feel that I am calling myself a shaman.
Got it. I feel like that term is thrown around a lot. Yeah. So I'm really happy that you said that.
Yeah. So what got me there? Well, what happened was that I fell into it as a child. Okay. I grew up, we were speaking before we started, upstate New York, like way upstate, near Canada.
Yeah, almost in the hood. Almost in my hood.
That's right. I'm on the other side of the pond there, and so I spent a lot of time outdoors. I spent a lot of time really connecting with nature. That's my specific area in shamanic work. Well, people would say, well, that's all shamanic work, but working specifically with plants and weather, and felt very connected, as though I would go out into my yard, and my father had planted all of these pine trees, and I would stand among them like they were my friends and hold their hands, hold the branches and dance with them.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. And so I didn't know that I was able to communicate in that way. It seemed natural to me. And the reason that I got excited when you asked the question is I think a lot of people have that experience, and that's one of the beautiful things about shamanism, is that it's so universal. But so then I forgot about it, because you become a teenager and all you want to do is, go out and date and do those things. And it wasn't until my early 40s, I think, that a couple of friends had gotten into shamanic work, and I thought, well, that's really interesting. But my spiritual advisor at the time, and still is my spiritual advisor, had said to me, have you ever heard about shamanism? What do you think about shamanism? And I said, well, I don't know. My friend does a lot of drumming, but I don't know much about it. And then I started to look it up, and I said, oh my goodness, this is what I've been doing my whole life. So I think it's time for me to start formally training, which I started, I guess, in about 2006 or 7, I think 2007. So, and then I just threw myself into it, and that is the story.
I love that. Oh, I love the image of you dancing with the trees. I could totally just picture that. That was beautiful. Okay, so I know that you've also written a bunch of books, fiction and nonfiction, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the book that you wrote called Celebrating Solitude. I feel like alone time is not something that many people talk about and the importance of it. So I'd really just love to hear your take on that and like what got you to write the book, and just any practices that you speak about or any tips for anyone that just wants to create a practice of solitude and like how they can start with that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yes, Celebrating Solitude, How to Discover and Honor Your Highest Self. That's the full title. Available on Amazon. And the book came about in my, I guess in my mid to late 30s. My father had just passed away. We were very close. I had just ended a long-term relationship. I'm in Manhattan on my own. And it occurred to me, wow, I may be alone for the rest of my life. And I have to come to terms with that. I have to find a way to make my life livable and joyful, even if I'm going to be on my own. And so I just started making notes and notes and notes about how can I enjoy my own company. And as I was doing that, I realized this might be helpful for other people. So I started compiling these notes into a book. And but it really comes from what we were talking about earlier, the understanding that first and foremost, you come from the divine. There's nothing wrong with you, because one of the first things, especially women, think of is, I can't find a partner. There's something wrong with me. I'm broken. Nobody loves me, right? Like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
So, and that's just not true. It's just not true. And so the book really compiles how to really relook at your life in a way that is more holistic, but also self-celebratory. You have a purpose here. There's something, and I don't mean that you have to do some huge thing in order to make your mark in the world. Just by you being your highest self, you're contributing to the rest of the world. Every time you go out to the grocery store and you interact with the person at the cash register, or every time you talk to a friend on the phone, you're making a difference, So what's solitude have to do with that? Well, we can't really fully learn who we are until we shut off the distractions. So in solitude, now it's really important to clear up a few definitions here. Solitude is not the same as isolation. Isolation is when you're shutting yourself off from the world because you can't handle it. Solitude is meant to be regenerative. It's plugging in to the source of your joy, your happiness, your bliss, to recharge your batteries so that you can go back out into the world and shine, right?
Okay.
So in fact, in the book, after you're done with your solitude practice, you go out. There's a whole chapter on re-entry. So
I feel like that, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like that is like so needed, especially in a time like this, because it's like if you aren't in a relationship or if you aren't with a partner right now, and we're like going back, well, I know in Canada, we're like going back into stricter measures, and there's going to be like probably another quarantine again where you're like stuck with yourself. And I don't like to use the word stuck, but that's sometimes what it feels like when you're alone. Right. And so I feel like this would be an amazing experience to take something that you really have no control over and then make the most of it. So when we do get to go back out there, you are your best self and you are channeling that higher self version of you.
Yes, absolutely that.
I love that.
Yeah. And so that's another really, thank you for bringing that up. That's another really important point, especially now. We've been given this gift. And I know it doesn't sound like that because it's such a horrible disease.
I've been saying it from day one. I'm like, we all just need to like go back inward.
This has been
this has been a blessing for everyone to just like pause.
Yep.
Oh.
And stop the distractions and stop going out. Now, this is the other part I wanted to bring up. When we think of solitude, a lot of us have a negative memory. What's the first thing your parents do when they punish you as a child? Go to your room.
Time out.
Go to your room by yourself. Think about the terrible things you've done and don't come out. What a terrible way to spend your time alone, right? So we need to undo that wounding, you know, and realize that spending time with yourself, developing a relationship with yourself, there's one human being that's going to be with you from the day you're born to the day you die, and that's you.
Yes, I've said that so many times. I love that.
Very smart woman. So the point is, we have to develop this beautiful relationship with ourselves for a number of reasons, but primarily so that we can negotiate the ups and downs of life with a partner at our side. This is what the solitude practice is about. So what is a solitude practice? That sounds so heavy, right? It can be 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, whatever works for you in your life, but it's a dedicated time for you to do something that gives you joy. That's it. And it's only for you and no one else is involved. So that could be meditation. It could be doing some kind of a craft like knitting. In some cases, it could be reading, but I think reflection is also really important. It could be journaling, doing art of some sort, or even just talking to yourself, which is a favorite pastime of mine. Having a little therapy session with yourself, taking a walk in nature, taking a hot bath. What are some things that recharge you? So it could be anything. And that's the beautiful part of the solitude practice, is that you get to choose what it is. And it'll be different every day, or it won't, depending on how you are. I'm a Virgo. I like to do the same thing every day. So it's how I keep my organization.
I'm a Sag. If I do the same thing 2 days in a row, I'm like getting itchy.
Yep. Well, nope. I'm Sag rising. I know what that's all about. So I've got the organization, and then I like spontaneity as well. So But the point is that creating this dedicated time that you commit to, and that's really important, is that you make the commitment to do this. What's the point of doing that? The more you do it, and this is again some little science, neuroplasticity, right? We can change the way our brain functions when we dedicate 2 minutes, half an hour, whatever, 2 hours, whatever time we can do. And it can be different every day. Over time, our mind begins to say, oh, I'm important. I'm worth taking some time out for, right? So the practical side of that is, not all of us have, you heard that I have a child, right? So there are obligations. If you have a partner, if you have a child, if you are living at home with your family, and a lot of us are quarantining and there are lots of people around. So how do you do it? You just do it. If you have a door to close, you have solitude.
That's literally, okay. So I promote this thing called Magical Morning Method. It's one of my courses, and it's all about taking like minimum 10, 15 minutes every morning just for that time for you. Beautiful. And I always say to people, like, even if you have a family, even if you have a kid, wake up 10 minutes earlier, lock yourself in the bathroom. Nobody will bother you when you're in the bathroom, and they don't have to know what you're doing behind that door, but just do it. Because you'll never, like that. I feel like time is a resource that we never get back.
Yes.
So absolutely. If you're not spending that time nurturing yourself, you can't give your best to other people. So absolutely. I love that.
100%. Something else about that, it's really important too how we approach a solitude practice. If it's something like this sneaky thing that we do, right, that nobody understands, you're still getting it done.
But we're going to have shame around it.
Right. You're going to have shame around it. And your loved ones and the people in your life are going to be like, oh, she's doing that weird thing, or he's doing that weird thing. So what I suggest for people who have children is to get them involved. Make it very clear. I'm doing my solitude practice. I will be in my room for 10 minutes. Right. I'll be in my room for 15 minutes. Would you like to do one as well? Why don't we do family solitude time? Everybody goes to a different corner of the room. It doesn't always work out that well, but it's an option. And this is true too. And here's me putting the therapist hat on.
I love that.
If you are a parent or you are a partner of someone, you're modeling for that person what it's like to do self-care. So don't sneak around about it. It's like just to sneak around and just let me get my 10 minutes. Yeah. Let people know what you're doing, because it's putting it out there and it's normalizing how important it is to have a relationship with yourself.
I love that so much. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so did you want to speak about anything else? Is anything else coming up for you right now that you're feeling called to share? This is like your time right now.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And there is one thing that I think is really, really important, which is I can hear the people saying, but I don't want to spend time with myself, because that's when I think I start going over all the things that I'm doing wrong. I think that I'm going, there's a reason I watch Netflix. There's a reason I go to the gym. There's a reason, that's why I'm freaking out in quarantine, is because I don't want to do this. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that some negative or difficult feelings might come up in your solitude practice, or thoughts about yourself that you don't like are going to come up. Of course they are. But why are they coming up? They're coming up because they feel safe. You're giving them a platform. And if we approach everything with love, if we approach self-development or self-care with love, then nothing that comes up in our solitude practice is an enemy to us. So I'll give you an example. If I'm sitting in my meditation and I'm really envious of my neighbor who just got a fancy new car, right? And it's distracting me. And then I'm mad at myself for caring about a possession. Well, this is why I don't meditate. It's much better if I just either go buy myself a car, or I do something else, or I flip around on Facebook or do something like that. When you sit with whatever unpleasant feelings come up, they are like small children that just want your attention. They are yours. We have, one of the things about being fully human that's so wonderful is that we have the full range of emotions and feelings. Even the unpleasant ones are ours. Yeah. And all they want is our attention. So when you sit with uncertainty, which is a huge one right now, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We never do, but especially now. Do you have a job next month? Will the pandemic ever end? Who's going to run America? No one has.
Yeah, that loss of control.
Right, yeah. So yes, absolute loss of control, which causes anxiety and causes depression. When you sit with the uncertainty and own it and take it in like you would a child having a nightmare, right? And your listeners can't see, I'm hugging myself right now. So when you take a child in who's having a nightmare, when you take the negative feelings and you bring them close to you and say, I see you, I accept you, and we'll get through this together. I on my podcast, which is called Self-Talk with Rachel Astarte, the episode 22 is a self-alignment meditation, which teaches you how to sit with unpleasant emotions. You could do that during your solitude practice, right? About 10 minutes. So the point is, don't be afraid of your thoughts, because they are just part of who you are. If you approach them with love, if you accept them, but you don't identify with them, that's the big part, right? Then you can just let them be and they will pass. So when you hug a child who's having a nightmare, No, you don't tell them, okay, we're going to go get the monsters and dragons or whatever that was in your nightmare. You just say, no, this is really scary. Let me hold you. That's what our negative emotions want from us, just to be held. And then they'll dissipate, and then they'll go off and do whatever they do.
I love that. I've never heard it like put that way. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now's your time to kind of just like plug where people can find you, where they can work with you. Definitely reshare the name of your podcast and the name of your book. I will include all the links in the show notes so everyone can just click very easily, but definitely just like where they can find you, where they can work with you, and learn more about all the stuff you talked about today.
Yes, thank you. Sure. So my website is rachelastaretherapy.com. So that's where you can read about me. That's where you can book a session or find out anything you want to know. I will point out that apparently in Canada on your phone, you can't do that because the pages are not working. I'm going to work on that. But my phone number is there. And so you can always give me a call. And you can also reach me at rachel@rachelastaretherapy.com. So please feel free to that's pretty much how you would reach out to me anyway.
Awesome.
Anybody who's interested in booking a session or talking about or answering any questions that I can within reason. My podcast is called Self-Talk with Rachel Astarte, and that is basically what we've been talking about: how to develop that foundation of self. And every topic is about the self in some way. There are some meditations in there. There are some how to work with anxiety, how to work with depression, how to get rid of negative self-talk, things like that. Next year, which is kind of exciting, I'm going to start incorporating interviews like these into my podcast. So until now, it's just been me talking. But what's great about them is that they're sound bites. They're all under 20 minutes.
Love it.
So people can just pop them in and, while you're brushing your teeth or whatever you need to do. And of course, the book, Celebrating Solitude, How to Discover and Honor Your Highest Self, is available on Amazon in all forms, Kindle and paperback and all that. I think that's the list.
Okay.
But how to reach me and how to find more of my stuff that's out there in the ether.
I love that. So again, guys, I'll be sharing all of that info in the show notes. So that way you can just go ahead and reach out to her, buy her book, and definitely take a listen to the podcast. I know that for my meditation later on this afternoon, I'm going to be pulling up that episode that you had talked about. That sounds very exciting.
22, self-alignment meditation. Yeah.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
I think I am.
Yeah. Okay. So what is a daily practice or ritual that you have to do every single day, no matter where you are, who you're with, you make the time for it?
That's a great question. I do physical exercise every morning, but I practice Kundalini yoga. So I do Kundalini yoga and meditation every single morning without fail.
I love that. What is something recent that you've manifested?
Oh, that's a wonderful one. I was thinking about a friend that I hadn't talked to in a long time. I was in the bathroom. I just got out of the shower and I was thinking about this person really intensely. And at that moment, he WhatsApped me. So I think that counts as manifesting.
Yes, 100%.
It was very strange. I was just like, whoa, that was fast.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
And it was lovely. I hadn't talked to him for a bit.
I love that. What book are you currently reading?
Right now, I am reading, let's see. Oh, Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson. It's a book about emotionally focused therapy, about couples therapy. It's a beautiful book for anyone who's in a relationship and wants to find out about, it's basically about attachment theory and how it applies to relationships. Beautiful
awesome.
Book. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's your secret obsession? So something that not many people know about you.
I am obsessed with comedy. I'm obsessed with comedy, particularly stand-up. There is not a stand-up show that I will not watch. I have been into comedy since I could speak, and it is an absolute obsession. I have to have it. I think that comedians are holy people. I do.
I love that. And I feel like because you live in New York, you have access to so many good shows.
Yeah.
You're blessed. I love
my thing.
that. Who would you want to be stuck in a 10-minute elevator ride with?
It's a toss-up between Jesus and Margaret Atwood.
Okay.
Maybe both
very good contenders. Yeah, maybe 5 minutes of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm throwing it back to MTV Cribs. And if I were to pull open your fridge right now, what would I find?
You would find many stacks of tofu, lots of vegetables, and applesauce for my kid. And what else? There's something really exciting in there that I just made. Oh, there's some kimchi in there, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, I'm a big kimchi fan. Trying to think what else is in there. That's basically the run of it. Yeah. I
love that. And then what is your favorite stone or crystal?
Oh, moonstone. I go moonstone and turquoise are my favorite things in the whole universe.
Yeah. Okay. And then a favorite quote or piece of advice that you've ever been given.
Favorite quote or piece of advice I've ever been given. All right, I'll tell you. It's a brief story.
Okay, of course.
When my father was dying, his student, who is a poet, the poet Li Young Lee, was with us when my father. In fact, my father's death date is actually tomorrow, so this is beautiful to bring his spirit into this. When my father was dying, that was in 2001. Li Young said to me that when his father was dying of cancer, his father said to him, you and I aren't even father and son. In other lifetimes, I might have been your son, or we might not have known each other, or we might have had different relationship entirely. I found this to be a life-changing way to look at relationships, particularly with family, that we are really here as spirits having a human experience, and how lovely it is to look at other human beings as being on their own path, whatever that might be. So the grief I was feeling about losing my father was when I was then able to look at it as spirit looking at spirit, and how we're all going to eventually go back home, and this is my father's journey, and I could sort of, at least for the moment, detach my suffering from his journey. So that idea about all of us sort of being here to learn whatever lessons we need to learn, that was a beautiful teaching for me.
I love that so much. I am a past life hypnosis facilitator, so I am a big believer in past lives and just like being with souls on different levels in different lives. Like, I know that people in my family have been my child in a past life, have been a husband or like my wife in a past life. So that's very beautiful that you shared that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I would really like to thank you for coming on today's podcast. That was incredible. And you definitely shared a lot of wisdom that I think that all the listeners will get a lot from. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabriella. It was a real pleasure. And I love that you have this platform. It's a beautiful thing to share with everybody.